Yo, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Mal with the Mic podcast. Today, we are going to be going through my predictions for this upcoming NFL season, a complete review starting with the standings for each division, each team's individual record, who I think is going to end up making the playoffs, who's going to win the top awards at the end of the season, and finally, you cannot forget about it, the eventual winner of Super Bowl 59. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Let's get started. Okay, starting with the NFC South. In last place, I have the Carolina Panthers. Pretty much expected. They were the worst team in the league last year. Bryce Young is still a developing young quarterback. I really do hope things get figured out for him, as Carolina's done just about absolutely nothing to help him out. They got Xavier Legette as a receiver this past draft. Don't know if that's going to do much for him. He needs help. He needs, this is the early stage of his development where it's going to be decided whether or not he could be a good quarterback or not. So I have the Panthers sitting in last place in the NFC South at a not too great record of 4-13. Next up in third place, I have the New Orleans Saints at a record of 7-9. Yeah, don't see much with the Saints. They have a lot of good talent, but I just don't trust Derek Carr at that quarterback spot. Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara have really shown, obviously we know who Alvin Kamara is, but Chris Olave is a great, promising young receiver. I just think he needs a quarterback better than Derek Carr. Their defense is good at most, but I don't see the Saints being competitors this year until they figure out the situation with Derek Carr, get a better quarterback. Saints 7-9, maybe next year. Sitting in second place in the NFC South, I have the Atlanta Falcons at a really not bad record of 10-7. I think the Falcons could be pretty decent this year, maybe sneak into a playoff spot. We'll see where we go with that. But 10-7, Kirk Cousins, the new man in Atlanta. He obviously has some great weapons around him. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, even Drake London, who's shown to be a great receiver when given the chance. So I really do feel like this Atlanta team could, take a step up this year. Their defense might hold them back, but they do have a couple nice guys over there like AJ Terrell. And in first place, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also at a record of 10-7. But I really do feel like that 1-2 punch in the NFC South is as close as it could get. And to be honest with you, I could see it going either way, to Atlanta or to Tampa Bay. But in this video, I'll have it going to Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield shown he can be a really decent quarterback in that system. He has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton's a really nice tight end. And then we saw the uprising of Rachaad White last year. Definitely a guy you guys want to look at in fantasy. I got him in one of my leagues. Tampa Bay, number one, but I feel like it could go either way to Atlanta or the Buccaneers. Moving on, we'll keep it in the NFC. We'll move to the NFC West. In last place in the NFC West, I have the Arizona Cardinals at a modest record of 7-9. I feel like the NFC West could be really decent this year. Kyler Murray is up for a bounce back year. He got Marvin Harrison Jr. I feel like he is going to be amazing this year. And then James Conner, really decent running back. I don't like the Cardinals' defense at all. That's why I have them in last place. But I could see them getting 6-7 wins this season. In third place, I have the Seattle Seahawks at a record of 8-9. Don't really see the Seahawks doing much this year. I'm not the fondest of Geno Smith. DK Metcalf is a crash out. Tyler Lockett is decent, but he's getting older. Their defense is pretty good. I like the two cornerbacks in Witherspoon and Woolen. Their defensive line is all right too, so I definitely think their defense will be more promising than their offense, but don't like the run game. Kenneth Walker's good, but at times he's shown to be just not really explosive. He has those big plays, but he needs to be more consistent throughout the entire season for them to really compete. And then obviously the receivers in Jigba, Lockett, Metcalf, but they got Geno Smith thrown into them. And no knock on Geno Smith, but he's not a great quarterback, to be honest with you. He's not. Moving on to second place, I have the Los Angeles Rams at a good record of 11-6. I think the Rams are going to be really decent this year. Second year of Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua show. Obviously should have hopefully a healthy Cooper Kupp the entire season. And then Matthew Stafford slinging that rock. Los Angeles could be one to look out with that defense. Obviously, they got a lot better last year with some underrated rookies like Kobe Turner. So, Los Angeles, definitely a team to look at in that wildcard race. And in first place in the NFC West, winning the division for the 4th year in a row, the San Francisco 49ers, my San Francisco 49ers, had a record of 13-4. There's no reason they shouldn't, to be honest with you. They lost the Super Bowl last year in heartbreaking fashion, but there's no reason they shouldn't win the division this year. There's no reason they shouldn't be a Super Bowl contender this year. At the time of this video is posted, I believe Trent Williams should be signed. Brandon Ayuk was signed earlier this week. The Niners really have no excuses. They must win the Super Bowl this year. Moving on, we'll go on to the NFC North. In last place, I have the Minnesota Vikings at a record of 6-11. You know, I wish the Vikings could be good, but I just don't trust Sam Darnold at quarterback. Obviously, they have some great weapons in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They signed Aaron Jones in the offseason. Really not the greatest offensive line or defense. And then obviously, like I said, the question of Sam Darnold at quarterback in a very, very competitive division. I could see this going a lot of different ways for Minnesota this season, but I don't think they're going to be a good competitor this year. Moving on to third and second place, and I want to mention these simultaneously because I feel like these two teams could be neck and neck. I have the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. To give third, I'll give it to Chicago. Obviously, they're not as tested. They're a younger team. And then one win above them, the Green Bay Packers at 10-7. But like I said, this really could go either way. Green Bay, a very also young team, but made it to the division round last year, so they have some playoff experience. I'm going to give the edge to them. Second and third place could be a mismatch with the Packers and the Bears. And then in first place, obviously, you have to have the Detroit Lions. Made it all the way to the NFC Championship last year. I'll have them in a record of 12-5. They were excellent last year. They have everything they need to compete. A great defense with Aiden Hutchinson leading the way. And then that offense with just a plethora of weapons. Sam Laporta, boom. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and then obviously a really solid quarterback of Jared Goff. Maybe we'll see them make another push to the NFC Championship. Who knows? And ending in the NFC, we will finish off with the NFC East. In last place, I have the Commanders. No, pause. I forgot the Giants are in that division. In last place, I have the Giants in the NFC East with a record of 5-12. Giants are not going to be good at all this year. I'm sorry. Malik Nabers is very promising young rookie. Don't like Devin Singletary at running back. Daniel Jones is just god-awful. I'm sorry to all the Giants fans. He's not good at all. And then their defense is pretty good. I won't lie to you. But they did lose Xavier McKinney this offseason to Green Bay. I think the main goal for them is to see what they have, you know. Those young guys like Malik Nabers, some of the guys in their defense, and see if maybe give Daniel Jones one more chance. Does he really have the what it takes to lead this team to, you know, a 10-win season? I don't really know. We've seen it one time, but it seemed pretty gimmicky. And third place, I have the Washington Commanders. Really like what they got. A younger team, obviously, with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, Terry McLaurin at receiver. They signed Austin Eckler. Don't really know what's going to happen with him and Brian Robinson, how that backfield will get split up. And then an okay defense. They sold at the deadline last year, trading two of their defensive linemen. They were in a bad place last year. But this year, I feel like it could be, you know, just like the Giants, another one of those, let's see what we got here. But I do think they'll be a little bit more competitive than the Giants, coming in at a 7-9 record. Definitely won't be a playoff team, but another team that, you know, is going to look at what they have this year and build for the future. In second place, I have the Dallas Cowboys at a record of 10-7. Cowboys, I feel like every year someone says it's their year and then it's never their year after they lose in the wild card spot. They signed CeeDee Lamb. Don't even know if Dak Prescott is going to be throwing to him at all. He's still worrying about his contract. They got back Ezekiel Elliott. He's kind of washed. And then that defense, the defense is really the best part of this team. That defense is absolutely amazing, and it could be what vaults them into playoff position, but you're going to need offense at some point, and that's why I don't have Dallas going too far this season. 10-7. And with the one spot in the NFC East, the final team of the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles, with the same record as the 49ers, 13-4. We'll get into who gets the one seed. They really, fixed their problems last year. They had DeAndre Swift, but the running game just seemed a little too choppy, so they brought in Saquon Barkley. Unbelievable signing. They did really good things to their secondary in the draft, getting Cooper DeJean, and I believe it was Quinyon Mitchell. So I like what the Eagles did this offseason. They've had 2 years in the past where they've had the chance to make a push, and they sold 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, last year in the wild card spot. So we'll see what they do this year. I really think they could be promising, but I still think, the Niners are better. Sorry, Eagles fans. Moving on to the AFC. We'll start with the AFC West. In last place, I have the Denver Broncos. Another one of those teams, like I've talked about, kind of just trying to see what they have. They got really good guys in the defense with Patrick Surtain. And then the rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, who I feel like could be very good. They have Courtland Sutton and Javonte Williams, but I'm still waiting to see if Bo Nix is obviously going to be good and what that offense is going to look like with him in there. We know their defense is pretty decent, but they still need some additions. So definitely not a competitive year for the Broncos. Another one of those teams that's going to look what they got, build for the future. I have them coming in at 6-11. With the third spot in the AFC West, I have the Los Angeles Chargers coming in at a record of 7-9. Justin Herbert, not fully healthy. We'll see what he can do this year. His only real threat at receiver is Ladd McConkey after losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams this offseason. No Austin Eckler. They've reverted to J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards from the Ravens. Yeah, the Chargers brought in Harbaugh. We know Herbert's a great quarterback. The matter of the fact is, can he stay healthy, and does he have the weapons to be able to be as good as he usually is? Going from Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler to Ladd McConkey, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins is not very promising. So don't see them being competitive this year. Going to be a pretty mid-season overall for them. In second place, I have the Las Vegas Raiders at also a record of 7-9. Gardner Minshew is an okay quarterback. Davante Adams is really the only real weapon they have on that offense. Maybe Brock Bowers is able to make a difference in his first year, but could take some time for him to be able to develop into a promising young tight end. And then the defense is just not great at all outside of Max Crosby. So Chargers, Raiders, could flip-flop them either way with 2 and the 3, but this division really doesn't matter besides number 1. The Kansas City Chiefs at a record of 14-3. We saw what they were able to do last year, win the Super Bowl. I hate it so much, but I have to be real with you guys. They look good again this year, and they've only really gotten better, adding Xavier Worthy in the draft. They got Juju Smith-Schuster back. He's not really going to make a difference, but he's more of just a body. And they were able to get Marquise Brown. Don't know how long he's going to be out, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him and obviously Rashee Rice, the types of problems that he's had. And then, Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco, 2 guys that have proven their spots on this team. Travis Kelce, one of the greatest tight ends of all time. And then Isaiah Pacheco has proven to be a really good young running back. And then on that defense, they lost L'Jarius Sneed this offseason, but they still have Chris Jones down the middle. And then, Patrick Mahomes. Really nothing to say about him. So Chiefs are going to have another good competitive year. In my opinion, the overall best record in the NFL. We'll see if that can get them to the Super Bowl, though. Moving on, we'll go to the AFC North. In last place, I have... You see, this division, I feel like could go a lot of ways. I do think the Ravens will be number 1. I got them at like a 13-4 record. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, great additions for them. They're going to be good. You know that. In second place, Cleveland. I got them around 11-6. We'll see if Deshaun Watson can stay healthy on the field and be a good passer. Don't know what's going to happen with Nick Chubb. He's expected to miss the first 4 games. And then Amari Cooper. So they have good weapons. They have a great defense. Definitely could see them sliding into the playoffs. And then 3 and 4, I just don't know how it's going to work with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Cincinnati really all depends on Jamar Chase. If Jamar Chase is back and playing like usual under a new contract, then I do see them, being able to vault themselves in the playoff position, maybe even ahead of the Browns. If not, it's going to be a disappointing year for Cincinnati. I got them at 8-9. And then in final place, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are just one whole big question mark. Don't know what's going on with that quarterback situation. George Pickens is really the only real threat at receiver. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, don't know who's going to be the lead back. And then the defense is decent, but not great. So I got them coming in at 7-9. 7-10. Oh, I've been saying 7-9 this whole time. It's 7-10. I forget it's 17 games. 8-9, obviously, and then 7-10. My apologies. Moving on, we will go to the AFC East. In last place, I have the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots. Yeah, there's nothing really to say about them. They suck. Okay, moving on, we'll go on to... This is going to be surprising, but the Buffalo Bills. And, oh yeah, Patriots, sorry to mention, 3-14. I didn't think I had to say that. They suck. The Bills, not much going on offensively. They got Keon Coleman, obviously Dalton Kincaid, and Josh Allen, you know who he is. Obviously James Cook at running back, but losing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis is a real big hit. The defense is not the greatest, to be honest with you. I don't know how the Bills are going to look. They're really one of those flip-flop teams. They could be amazing and they could be terrible. In my opinion, I think they're going to be mid in general. I have them at 8-9. Don't see them making the playoffs, to be honest with you. I just think the loss of Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs and that defense taking a big hit this offseason is really going to hurt them. At second place, I have the New York Jets, who I also could see sliding into a playoff spot. The Jets, 10-7, I think I got them. Aaron Rodgers, nice. He's good for him to get back. We'll see if he can stay healthy and return to what he used to be. Breece Hall is a really good young running back, as well as Garrett Wilson at receiver, and they obviously brought in Mike Williams. And then the defense is just absolutely amazing. We'll see what happens with Hassan Reddick, but I think the Jets are going to be a really decent team this year. Could slide them into the playoffs, but we'll see what happens. And then in first place, I have the Miami Dolphins. Not much better, 11-6. I just give it to the Dolphins because they've already proven that they're a pretty decent team. They brought in OBJ this offseason. Their defense did take a huge hit with Christian Wilkins going to the Raiders. But, they're still a great team. Tua got a big contract. He's a really decent quarterback. And then that run game is undeniable. So I do see them winning the division. Don't know if they do much in the playoffs, but they come in at 11-6. And finally, ending with the standings, the AFC South. This division I really like, to be honest with you. I feel like there's no real loser in this division, but I obviously have to rank it. And in fourth place, I will head over to the Tennessee Titans. They are not going to be great. They lost Derrick Henry. We'll see what Will Levis can do with DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley. And then obviously, defense is not great. They're not going to be too decent. I think maybe 6-11. They brought in Tony Pollard. They obviously have Tyjae Spears, but don't see the Titans being too competitive this year. In third place, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I could see them being pretty decent. Obviously, another one of those teams who is going to look at what they have, but also wants to compete. Anthony Richardson, we only saw a sample size of him, but he looked good. They have Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, and then a couple other nice guys on defense like DeForest Buckner. But I just don't know how that's going to work out. I see them being one of those mid teams, maybe 8-9. I got them in, so I don't see them making the playoffs. But they definitely could be competitive. In second place, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not much better, 9-8. Don't see them making the playoffs. Jacksonville is just another one of those teams that's pretty mid. Trevor Lawrence signed a huge extension this offseason. Defensively, I don't really like the defense, besides Josh Allen. Offensively, they're okay. Travis Etienne, they drafted Thomas Jr., and then obviously they have Christian Kirk. Don't know how good they're going to be. I don't really like the offensive line, and then obviously the defense. Defensive line is all right, but secondary linebackers, not the greatest. Don't like them too much. And in first place, my opinion for the second seed in the AFC, I got the Houston Texans at 13-4. I think they're going to be absolutely amazing this year. Brought in Stephon Diggs and Danielle Hunter. C.J. Stroud has already proven that he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. And even bringing in Joe Mixon, shoring up that run game. They already had Nico Collins. Tank Dell is coming back from injury. Defensively, they got Stingley Jr., obviously Danielle Hunter. So a really, really good team in Houston. Houston, we got a problem because the Texans are coming and rolling. So there you go, all the standings on all the records. Now we can look at the playoff picture. In my opinion, in the NFC, this is how I see it going. I think the 1 seed is going to be the Niners. 2 seed is going to be Eagles. 3 seed will be the Lions. And the 4 seed will be Tampa Bay. At the 5 seed, this could go a lot of ways, but I got the Rams. I like what they have, and I definitely could see them being a team to compete. At the 6th seed, I give Atlanta the 6th seed, Dallas the 7th seed. That's how I see it playing. So that's my playoff picture on the NFC side. Moving on to the AFC side. 1st seed, obviously the Chiefs, 14-3. The 2 seed, I could see the Texans getting in there at 13-4, like I said earlier. The 3 seed, definitely the Ravens, in my opinion, at 13-4. Obviously, just get edged by the Texans. I like the Texans a little bit better. And then the 4 seed, we got the Dolphins at 11-6. 5 seed, I'll go with the Jets at also 11-6. Them and the Dolphins could flip-flop, in my opinion. At the 6 seed, I do want to go with the Browns, also at 11-6. So a bunch of teams that could flip-flop depending on, whoever wins those matchups. And then at the 7 seed, who will sneak in? I'll give it to the Bills. I'll get 3 teams in the AFC East. I'll give it to the Bills. I think at 9-8, they'll be able to just sneak in. So that's my playoff picture. That's how I see how it plays out. And then before we come up with how I think the playoffs will go out and my Super Bowl winner, let's talk about some of the awards that I think will be won. Starting with MVP, the most valuable player in the NFL. I could give it to 2 guys, C.J. Stroud and Brock Purdy. I have to wait to see how they play in the regular season to decide who's going to win it, but if there's a 1A, 1B, it'd have to be C.J. Stroud and Brock Purdy. Comeback Player of the Year, Nick Chubb. Terrible injury last year. It was really hard to see, but he'll be back week 5, in my opinion, and then he'll just go on a tear. He'll have 12 weeks ahead of him. I think he could win Comeback Player of the Year in just those 12 weeks. So Nick Chubb's going to win Comeback Player of the Year, I think. Offensive Player of the Year, I don't want to say McCaffrey because he won it last year, but it might end up being McCaffrey. Another guy I could see getting it, maybe Breece Hall, if he's really, used in that Jet system. Or Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb. Those are 2 guys who could definitely get it. So Offensive Player of the Year is a mashup. To be honest with you, I think I'm going to give it to Christian McCaffrey. He's just too good to not get it unless an injury happens. Hopefully not. Defensive Player of the Year. I think Aiden Hutchinson gets this one. I think he's going to have a huge season. Many, many sacks. I could see him getting close to 20, in my opinion. It'd definitely be a good race with him, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt. But I think Aiden Hutchinson grabs it this year. And finally, I will give you my prediction. The score will be 30-24, Texans-Niners Super Bowl. This is going to be good. That's what I think is going to happen. Texans-Niners, San Francisco 49ers win the Super Bowl. You had to expect it, didn't you?